My father didn't die peacefully in his sleep. He died quickly, suddenly, in the garage, changing a flat tire. The doctor called it a massive coronary event. A shock. A tragedy. A life ended too soon. I was 27. I was broken. The funeral was a blur of black dresses and hushed condolences, but the real earthquake hit 3 days later. I was cleaning out his closet. It felt like the last sacred task I could perform for him. His favorite denim jacket hung there, still smelling faintly of engine oil and Old Spice. I ran my fingers over the worn leather elbow patches. I slipped my hand into the inner breast pocket. It was a habit of his. He always kept important things there. Instead of a wallet or keys, my fingers brushed against a folded piece of paper. It was cheap receipt paper, torn unevenly. The message was scrawled quickly, in his familiar, bold handwriting. It was just 5 words. "Don't trust your mother." I stared at the paper. My hands started shaking so violently I almost dropped it. It felt like a physical blow to the chest. Grief turned instantly into a cold, paralyzing dread. I reread it, searching for a mistake, a joke, a reason. There was none. My mother, Sarah, was downstairs. She was arranging flowers, fragile and beautiful in her sorrow. The woman my father had loved, cherished, and built a life with for 35 years. And his final secret message was a warning against her. I crumpled the note into my fist. I tucked it deep into my jeans pocket. I couldn't breathe. The note was a seed of doubt planted in the darkest moment of my life, and it grew roots instantly, strangling my every memory. Was the love I witnessed all a performance? Was my mother capable of something terrible? I started watching her. It felt monstrous. Every gesture, every tear, every quiet moment of sorrow. I analyzed it. Was she acting? Was this guilt? She seemed genuinely devastated. But then again, a secret like this must require Oscar-level acting skills. 2 weeks passed in this silent interrogation. I kept the note hidden. I couldn't confront her, not without knowing why. My father's will was surprisingly simple. Everything went to my mother, no complications, no strange clauses, except for one small detail. He left me his old watch, a clunky stainless steel diver's watch he rarely wore anymore. I found the watch in his dresser drawer. It felt heavy in my hand. I tried to put it on, but the band was too long. As I fiddled with the clasp, I noticed something odd about the back of the case. It looked scratched, deliberately. I took a magnifying glass from the study. The scratches weren't random. They formed 3 distinct letters, SDB Safety Deposit Box. My father had a secret safety deposit box, and he used the one object he specifically left me to give me the location. This wasn't paranoia. This was planning. The blood rushed to my head. This was it. The reason for the note. I couldn't use the banks in our town. My mother handled all the major family finances, so I drove an hour out to a small, obscure bank in a neighboring city. I presented the will, the death certificate, and the watch. The clerk, an older woman with kind eyes, checked the signature against the bank records. It matched. She returned with a small metal box. The key felt cold in my palm. I went into a private viewing room and locked the door. I placed the box on the table. This moment felt less like mourning and more like espionage. I was terrified of what I might find. I opened the box. It wasn't money. It wasn't jewelry. It was paperwork. Lots of it. There were deed transfers, insurance policies, and correspondence with a law firm I didn't recognize. And one thick envelope labeled, Evelyn, read alone. My hands were sweating so much the paper felt damp. I started reading. The documents outlined a massive real estate transaction. My father had secretly sold 3 properties over the last 5 years. Properties I didn't even know he owned. And all the proceeds, millions of dollars, had been diverted into an offshore trust fund. The beneficiary of the trust? Not me, not my mother. A name I had never heard of, Clara Mae Johnson. Before we continue, we would like to thank all of you who support us by subscribing, liking, and sharing our content. The only appreciation we ask of you is that you subscribe, like, and share this video if you are not yet one of our subscribers. Thank you. My father had been funneling millions to a stranger. For years. The pieces clicked into place brutally. The note was about an affair, a hidden family. My mother must have found out. She must have threatened him. Or maybe she knew about it and had been complicit in some way, covering it up. The betrayal was staggering. It wasn't just my mother I couldn't trust, it was my father too. He was living a double life. But then I saw the personal letter, the one addressed to me. Evelyn, It began. If you are reading this, I didn't get the chance to tell you myself. I am so sorry for the deception. It was necessary. He explained that Clara was not a lover. Clara was the daughter of his best friend, who died mysteriously decades ago. He promised his friend on his deathbed that he would look after Clara and ensure she was safe and provided for. The money was her inheritance. He had hidden it from my mother, he wrote, because Sarah was becoming unstable and obsessed with the family finances. He wrote that she had started making rash investments and draining the accounts. He feared she would squander Clara's future. I tried to reason with her, the letter concluded, but she became volatile. Evelyn, she is not who you think she is. She is desperate, and she will stop at nothing to regain control. Protect yourself. The man I knew as my calm, steady father saw my mother as a financial predator. I drove home that night with a cold, hard knot in my stomach. The grief was gone, replaced by calculated fear. I had to be strategic. I couldn't let her know I had the key. I couldn't let her know I had read the letter. I had to watch her not as a suspicious daughter, but as a cautious investigator. And I had to confirm his story. Was my mother truly draining the family fortune? I opened the door to our home. My mother was sitting on the sofa, a glass of wine in her hand. She looked up, her eyes wide and wet. "Where have you been, darling?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. I was worried. I forced a smile. "Just running errands, Mom, getting some air." I walked over and hugged her, but as I held her, I reached into her purse quietly. My father's words echoed in my mind. She will stop at nothing. I needed proof. I needed confirmation. I didn't find bank statements, but I found something else. A small laminated card, a key card. It was for a gym I didn't recognize. A luxury gym far across town. Why would my 70-year-old mother need a luxury gym membership a 2-hour drive away? It made no sense. I didn't let go of her immediately. I just held her, analyzing the texture of her silk blouse, the scent of her expensive perfume. "I love you, Mom," I whispered, the lie tasting like ash. She squeezed me tightly. "I love you too, Evelyn, more than anything." But I knew with absolute certainty that we were both lying. The next day I drove to the address listed on the key card. It wasn't a gym. It was a massive, modern office complex, the kind that housed high-powered, secretive financial firms. I used the gym card to gain access to the parking garage. The card worked. That told me my mother was somehow connected to this building. I spent an hour observing from my car. My mother wasn't there. But as I was about to leave, I saw him. George Albright, my father's business partner. He was exiting the building looking stressed, talking urgently on his phone. George was a friendly, harmless man. Or so I thought. But as he walked past my car, I noticed the logo embroidered on his jacket. The same luxury gym logo from my mother's key card. It was a shared membership. My mother wasn't having an affair with George, but they were meeting secretly. And it wasn't about exercise. I realized then that my father's letter might only have been half the story. The truth was likely uglier, more complicated, and far more connected to the family business than to hidden inheritances. I knew I needed proof of their activities. I waited until George was gone, then followed him. He didn't go home. He drove to a dilapidated warehouse district near the docks. He met someone there, a large, intimidating man I'd never seen. They exchanged a heavy briefcase. I managed to snap a few grainy photos on my phone. Illegal, dangerous, but necessary. The moment George drove away, I drove straight to my mother's house. I needed to know what she was hiding. She was in the kitchen, making tea. She looked composed, but her eyes darted nervously when I walked in. "Mom, we need to talk about Dad's finances," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She bristled instantly. "Your father handled everything. You shouldn't worry about that now, Evelyn. You're grieving." "I found the safety deposit box," I said simply. The kettle whistled. My mother didn't move. She just stared at me. The color drained from her face, leaving her impossibly pale. "The SDB," I clarified, "and the papers about Clara and the trust fund." She turned off the stove. Her composure vanished. Her lower lip began to tremble uncontrollably. "He told you lies," she whispered. "He poisoned you against me, even from the grave. He said you were unstable, that you were trying to drain the accounts." She laughed, a harsh, dry sound. "He was hiding things, yes, but not from me. He was hiding them for me." She finally turned around. There were fresh bruises on her left arm, partly hidden by her sleeve. Before we continue, we would like to thank all of you who support us by subscribing, liking, and sharing our content. The only appreciation we ask of you is that you subscribe, like and share this video if you are not yet one of our subscribers. Thank you. Evelyn, your father had a terrible secret. Years ago, he was involved in some shady dealings. George was his partner. They took money from the wrong people, real criminals. I felt faint. This was worse than an affair, worse than financial irresponsibility. They've been blackmailing us for years, she confessed, tears streaming down her face. They demanded money. He created the Clara Trust Fund, not for an illegitimate daughter, but as a slush fund, a separate account to bleed dry and keep them satisfied. She explained that my father wrote the note because he knew he was dying, and he feared they would come after her next. He wanted me to be wary, not because she was the villain, but because she was trapped. I met George at the office complex because they forced me, she sobbed. I was paying them off. I was protecting you, protecting your inheritance, the real one. The pieces reformed again, cruelly. My father's note wasn't a malicious warning about my mother's character. It was a desperate plea to protect me from the mess he left behind. Don't trust your mother meant, don't trust the situation she is in. I looked at the bruises. Did George do that? She shook her head. The people George works for, they threatened me. They said if I didn't pay the next installment, they would hurt you. The cold dread returned, multiplied tenfold. My father died of a heart attack, Mom, I stated, wanting desperately for it to be true. She looked away, unable to meet my eyes. Evelyn. His heart was weak. But the night he died, he received a phone call. George was outside, waiting to collect a huge payment. Your father went out to the garage, terrified. They argued. George needed the money. Your father collapsed under the stress. She paused, taking a ragged breath. George left him there. He saw him fall, and he drove away. He wanted the house, the insurance, everything. That's why I was meeting him. He was leveraging Dad's death. My father didn't die of natural causes. He died because of fear, greed, and abandonment by his partner. I reached out and took my mother's bruised hand. The lie was gone. The distance evaporated. We were two survivors, standing in the rubble of a catastrophic secret. I pulled out my phone and showed her the grainy photos I took of George exchanging the briefcase. Proof. We weren't just grieving a death anymore. We were seeking justice. It took months of quiet planning, working with the police under strict secrecy. We used George's greed against him. My mother arranged another payoff, wired by the police. They arrested George and his associates right on the docks. The fallout was immense. The scandal rocked our community. But my mother and I, through shared terror and ultimate truth, were finally closer than ever. The note, the 5 agonizing words, ultimately saved us. It forced me to look deeper, to question everything, and to uncover the truth buried beneath the surface of a perfect family life. Sometimes the hardest goodbyes are the ones we whisper to the person we thought we knew. But the deepest peace comes from accepting that the ones we love are complicated, flawed, and often doing desperate things to protect us. The betrayal turned into an act of profound, messy love. And in the end, that messy love was all that was left, and it was enough to finally heal.